The piano duets, well, first of all, they're more prevalent for a number of reasons. You even go back a century. Most people had one piano in their house, and it was a way, even a couple of centuries ago, before recordings, for people, if the music was transcribed for one piano, four hands, let's say a symphony that was just composed, or a string quartet, it made it accessible to everyone to hear it. It was also a social.
In those days, the piano for any it corresponds really to the development of the middle class that replaced that economically replaced the aristocracy in power and in political power and in sheer numbers as industry developed. And you have people who one of the first things that they would try to get in their homes was a piano, which was the equivalent of radio and television.
Right.
It was the entertainment center, and
not everyone lived near a concert hall or could travel or had the funds to travel. You could actually hear music that was being composed.
It was an economic,
and just a social
major thing, because composers could make a lot of money selling piano forehands, and the symphonies that people either couldn't afford to, or concert series were few and far between in those days, in the early days of the 19th century. So they would be able to play along with them at home. So piano teachers were in great demand, and composers writing for not just piano pieces, but piano forehands for the family,
right.
And songs, you see, and songs, because that was the entertainment center at a time when more and more people could actually afford them, and there were so many piano makers for making instruments by hand for affordable prices in those days as well. You see what I mean about the economic background to all of this?
And everyone had at least one piano.
So you have this huge repertoire,
Now the challenge is, the interesting thing about one piano, four hands is too, when the ensemble can be tight in that you can actually see the person next to you put the hands on the keyboard. So your ensemble is in some ways less challenging. Also, you feel their breath. However, the challenge is two things. You've got, sometimes your hands can intertwine. So when you're sitting by yourself, two pianos, each person at a piano, you don't have that issue. You're in control of your keyboard. So you have to make adjustments.
I mean, there are literally times when, do you go under or do I go under?
Or you're playing the same note, you have to release it earlier.
Or if you take that note, because I can't turn the page over there,
right.
It's astonishing the amount of logistical concerns.
Yeah, so that's an issue.
As each one of us is playing essentially half the piano, as opposed to having a full instrument at your disposal for two piano works.
And when you're practicing, you have to remember not to sit center. You have to sit at one end, either in the treble area or the bass area when you practice, so that you have your balance. You know what I'm saying?
And you have to practice differently too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you don't practice the way you would sitting at the center. Also, one person controls the pedal, and you have to get used to that. Now, at two pianos, of course, you have much more freedom physically as you would if you were practicing as a soloist. The ensemble is a little more challenging because you don't necessarily have visually. Some of the stands on these pianos today have gradations. They can go down further, but a lot of the older pianos, it's just very stationary. And if you're dealing in a situation where somebody's not as tall, you can't adjust the stand, and so you're
our little Yamaha here has a adjusted desk Okay.
Yeah.
This piano, this 1914 Canave,
Does not.
does not. So the desk is lit, is fixed.
Right.
And
So you
I think
practice.
piano literature
Yeah.
is prejudiced against short people. So sometimes you have,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of it is cueing, because when
Right.
you're at a distance from each other, even if you have visual contact, we need to cue each other, whereas if we're right on top of each other, we can just breathe. And so they have different sets
Yeah.
of challenges.
The repertoire too. Interestingly enough, we both heard recently. It was a one piano four hand concerto with orchestra. You very rarely see that. It's usually one piano or two pianos for a concerto with orchestra. We've done the Mozart two piano with orchestra. But this was a one piano four hand, so that's not very common. So most of the concerto repertoire is for a duo piano, if you're going to go that route. A lot of sonatas and other pieces have been written for one piano four hands, and some adapted to both.